Good evening. Welcome to I'mPossible Conversation, the conversation where ordinary people share their extraordinary life journeys. Tonight, my guest is Steve Pugh. He's a Cub Scout.
Well,
Not really at the moment.
Not anymore. I was.
Not anymore. But a Cub Scout will always do their best, think of others before themselves, and do a good deed every day. Steve still lives by it. What's the good deed of today, Steve?
I think it's interesting because you can make an impact in lots of different ways. And I'm about to start working with a female entrepreneur-led business based out of Darlington. And one of the things that I noticed just in the way that they phrase themselves is almost, I think they weren't celebrating their achievements as well as I believe they should do. So I think, a good deed can be as good as almost just giving someone confidence to say, actually, I have complete faith in what you do, how you work, and you can lift people up just through, how you treat people, how you talk to people. And almost, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, which is just nice general stuff, as well as just helping people out and just being a generally nice person, I think.
Fantastic. So you're based in Newcastle now, aren't you? Could you tell me, are you originally from Newcastle, or how come you here?
How quick an answer would you like? Because I have long versions, short versions.
Any version you like.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Liverpool, which is my hometown, famous for the Beatles and football. I was raised by my mother, so my mum raised two boys. Went to university in Sheffield, did mechanical engineering, so you can see some of my certificates over there on the wall. Went to work in Jamaica after graduation, so I've worked all around the world as a project engineer, so I was always very good at kind of fixing things. After the 2008 recession, basically the overseas construction market kind of tanked. It didn't do very well. But actually there was a girl who I was trying to win back, who's now my wife. And basically she was back in Sheffield. So I was offered to do a full scholarship back at Sheffield University to do a PhD on aircraft landing gear. But the whole reason I took that was to win a girl back. It was just to follow love. And then 3-4 years later, after I kind of finished, she's from Darlington originally. So she's from the Northeast. She'd moved to Newcastle to work for a big law firm. I followed her up, and then that's how I ended up in the Northeast.
Fantastic. So that's the story. So and then at the end you won her. That's the main thing.
But we've known each other for 19 years now. We met back in 2002. But I think almost because I was raised obviously by a woman, a lot of people were, but I didn't have a father figure necessarily in my life, that I've always had a lot of respect for people and women especially, that actually I think when I'm well trained enough to know when you get a good one and to keep them. So
good answer. So you saying that your mom raised two boys. And what's the main value she instilled in you, do you think?
I think hard work. So for instance, my mum, so she raised my brother. So my brother's 18 months older than I am. And she would work in schools as a dinner lady. I believe she might have been a cleaner at some point. She worked in a bank. She worked shifts. She worked really, really hard. And she worked multiple jobs over the years to basically raise two fairly troublesome teenage boys, but to the point where she always gave us enough belief to really kind of keep going and keep doing what we could, and enough to help fund us to go to university and obviously hopefully make a better kind of life for ourselves. But I think it would be the hard work angle. And as a prime example, even my mum used to work on Christmas Day, so it'd be my brother and we'd wake up, but we purposely wouldn't open our presents until my mum got back from work. And that could be, I don't know, 11, 12, midday, whichever. But actually, I think that just always kind of sat inside me. And then also, because of that I remember my mum would joke that she would joke that my brother was the smart one. But actually, I worked really hard. I always did. I would try my best, which goes back to the Cub Scouts kind of thing. But actually, I think because of that, that's almost part of the engine that kind of drives me. And it's I have to get that partly from my mum. And then, you know, part of the thing that I really like now is that just because I've managed to kind of do quite well over time, it's just it also gives you the potential platform to kind of give back and look after other people and look after your family and stuff in a way that I couldn't have done if I hadn't achieved, if that makes sense. So I think it's that kind of, you know, the ability now to, you know, look after her more, and she's retired now, but it's just the, you know, I think one of the things that really sets people apart in business and life are people that aren't afraid to keep trying, just keep going, doesn't matter what happens. And I probably get that from my mother.
So the Scouts also played quite large role in your younger days, is that right?
I actually think it did. So my parents were kind of involved with Scouts and Cubs and stuff, and because I was the younger brother, my brother was already in, and I actually got to join Beavers, which is the younger version of Cubs, at 5, is when you're not meant to join till you're 6. But anyway, but what that done, and also all of the adventure camping and leadership and training and stuff that you do, like for years in many ways, first aid skills, I think what it did was help teach how to motivate a team, bring people on together, look after people who are, you know, if you're on a big hike up some mountains, there's going to be some people at the front and some people at the back. And it's making sure that the pack slows down to look after the people at the back. Or even if you had, we used to do a lot of kind of first aid competitions and things where, you know, you've got a bunch of 12, 13-year-old kids, teenagers. And it was just, I always loved the kind of, I said the leadership position, but for me, it's always about looking after the team and the group as a whole. And then as I got older, I kind of transferred that more into kind of competitive sports and team sports. I'm a qualified basketball coach. But the same kind of goes is that with it's interesting when you know what it's like to be the best player on a good team, but also the worst player, because you get treated very differently. And I think when you're then in charge of that, you can make sure that nobody ever feels left out, nobody doesn't get any playing time. And I think that almost is a good mentality to bring into life and business, because when you're managing director of a business, you still have to look after your team, or you don't have to, but you should look after your team and make sure everyone's okay. And it's the same mentality that I think, you know, you can learn at Cubs and Scouts and in team sport and stuff that will follow through your career. And I think the truth is some people have it, some people don't. But actually that kind of, I like to look out for other people. And that's just something I've always done. And yeah, it probably does kind of go back to Cubs and Scouts and stuff.
So you mentioned about leadership skills and everything, and talking about what's your why, because you do so many things. And this wonderful book, the program you've created, the Roadmap
MBA,
the Roadmap MBA, yeah. And what's your why? What's the reason of doing this?
Okay, so if I go back a step, is that when I grew up, and my mom raised my brother and I, and she worked really hard to kind of, you know, get us to where we are. That you know, I remember when I first went to university, and I was from Liverpool, which it's like Newcastle. It's not a posh town. It's, you know, it's a working class kind of city. And when you go to an environment which is a red brick, very good university that's very prestigious, especially for mechanical engineering, which is what I was doing, I was surrounded by a group of people that were different to what I was. And almost, you know, I was the poor kid. I was the one that worried about paying for my lunch, going when the others would go to Witherspoons to buy a £3.50 thing, you know, whatever the food was. I would always think, how am I going to pay for this? How, you know, and that was always at the back of my mind. But then fast forward a few years, I knew that I had talent and I knew what I wanted to do. And I was, you know, wanted to maybe one day do like a traditional MBA course at a university or wherever, but they're really, really expensive. They take a lot of time. So if you have a full-time job or you have kids or you have commitments, which a lot of people do, you can't do one, or not easily. The point was there's a lot, intentional or not, there's a lot of barriers to business education that I don't believe should be there. And they artificially hurt poor people, working parents, people from around the world that don't have physical access to schools and stuff. And even like time poor parents, and likewise on price. So a traditional MBA could be £40,000, if not 5 times that in America. The whole point of the Roadmap MBA, so it's an alternative business course, of which there are about 10 or 15 worldwide, And what I wanted to do, because I am, as an engineer, I'm very good at solving problems and looking at how things work, piecing it together, and then actually figuring out how to do it, but simplifying it down. But the whole mission is making business education accessible. And that comes in terms of taking really big, complicated subjects, which could be a 400-page book on one particular topic, that I'm fortunate in a way that I'm able to read it, understand it, process it, and make it simple to explain to other people how it works. But really do that across the whole sphere of business education, because not everyone has the ability or time to read a 400-page book on behavioral economics. They just don't. So what I wanted to do was create a business course that anyone can pick up for 2 minutes or 2 hours and help them make a step change through making a lot of really complicated stuff simple, showing how it all works together. And that's something that is unique that I kind of invented. So, Anna English, she met me early doors when I looked at how I kind of map it all together. But also in terms of accessibility in the price. So actually it starts at $399, which is 1,000 times cheaper than a lot of kind of courses. But actually I also gift 50%. I spend tens of thousands of pounds to gift away free courses to people, because what I didn't want was that someone who has the talent or the desire to start a business but can't afford what you class as traditional education, or they look after kids, or they're in Indonesia or China or Taiwan or America or wherever. And it was a way to remove barriers and make business education accessible. But then even if you go a step further, so it's taken really complicated concepts and making them simple so that people understand it. But actually people don't always learn by reading. Some people like to listen, they like to talk, they like to watch videos. So part of the reason in the same mission is I do 4 classroom sessions a week, all for different time zones around the world. I do live Q&As, which anyone can join in, they don't have to pay for. I do, obviously, there's the textbook, there's a website with 150 odd videos on, and it's really, there's a podcast, there's interviews, and it's really trying to make business education genuinely accessible to everyone. And the whole point of how the buy one gift one works is that if you are a business and you're looking to upskill your team, essentially, a lot of people in their careers, they're very technically good at what they do. So they could be an engineer or a lawyer or a banker or whatever. But at a certain point in your career, you're asked to start to sell to people and actually, win new customers or manage a team or whichever, create a business strategy. But you're not really taught to do that. There's nowhere to go to actually learn how to do these skills. So as someone that has been through that process, so I became managing director at 33 for an international business. But what I've tried to do is put that all into one place, which is the textbook, but actually in a way that's accessible and usable to help people make and develop their business or career in a way that they probably can't get anywhere else. And then just before I finish, because I know I've been talking for a while, is that one of the other big things as well is that you can have, with traditional education, you can watch a TED Talk or you can read a book and you can get the information, but not everyone knows how to then take that and apply it back to themselves or their business. So one of the big things that is, again, making it accessible is that in the classroom sessions that we do via Zoom or the Q&A, people can ask questions. So Suki, you could actually say, look, Steve, I don't quite understand this. How does this work? And even in Tuesday's classroom session, we had a female entrepreneur on from Northumberland, and we were going through 6 universal principles of social influence. So it's some quite techie stuff about behaviors and why people make decisions. But what I was able to do was distill about 5 books worth of information into a 1-hour session, but really apply it to her so that now for her business, she had 3 or 4 great ideas to actually, which will massively increase her ability to sell her product. But it was through, most people don't know that this information exists or how to find it. And it's difficult to learn. And it's that kind of thing of just trying to bring it all into one place. And then one of the gifts that I have is the ability to solve problems. So just through asking a few questions about what people are trying to achieve, I can take that, process it, and then actually tell them either where to find the information or tell them what to do in a way that I'm quite good at that. And that's what makes the course different. It's all about giving people confidence in what they do.
Yeah. And because I know you are a very, very clever person, clever guy, and you got 2 MBAs.
No, so I have 2 master's degrees.
Two master's degrees. And so how would you make your course easily understandable to other person?
Well, so the one thing that people always say is that if you really understand the topic, you can explain it simply. And that's the big thing for me, that I have a book here. So it's Financial Intelligence for Entrepreneurs. It's about 350 pages and it's very in-depth. But my point is that for most people, you could actually explain the basic concepts in 5 pages, 6 pages, but actually in a way that people don't. One of the big things that puts off a lot of people who don't class themselves as academic is they don't feel, they don't want to feel stupid. They don't want to be afraid of asking questions. So actually, because I am good at certain things, I can hopefully break things down to then explain to someone a really quite complicated concept in a way that they understand, and then we can build on that over time. And that is a good way to actually make fairly complicated concepts accessible to people. And that also is one of the big things that, when people, you can share something with them. So in video, you can talk about a concept, and you see famous people do this all the time on YouTube. But often the learner likes to process it, understand it, and actually just play back to you, this is what I think. Is this correct? And it's that interaction is part of what makes the roadmap unique. And it's only been going for 6 months, but it's in 19 countries. Actually, no, it's in 21 countries now. And this is a 10-year goal for me. This is what I want to keep building. This is my ikigai, if you know the phrase. This is my mission. This is my reason for being now, that I have a certain set of talents that I'm hopefully quite good at. I also happen to love cameras and live streaming and everything else, that actually I do everything myself. But actually, I love helping people. I love seeing that light bulb moment in someone, that their business is their passion. It means everything to them. It pays for their mortgages. It pays for their kids to go to school, everything. So actually, if I can help them do that and help it be a success, because a huge amount of businesses do fail, that to me is the fulfillment. And that's part of the reason why I don't want anyone to ever miss out or not have access to information based on price or location or whichever.
So how did you train yourself to become in that position?
Okay.
What's your habits, and how did you grow into that person?
Well, I think one of the things that helps is that as an engineer, you're taught and trained to solve problems. So very logically, you can look at a problem and break it down to its fundamental kind of first principles, and then you figure out how to solve it. And that's true for how you build a bridge, or you design a jet engine, or whichever. There's actually building blocks that you can use. Throughout my career, and actually it was when I was doing my undergrad, I had a lady called Professor Elena Rodriguez Falcon, who was one of my lecturers. And she taught, it was called MEC 414. It was a business and marketing module. And it was all about using engineering skills to help make real impact in people's lives. But what was quite interesting was that the topic for that course was a child called Kieran Norton, who was based out of Sheffield, who had quadriplegic cerebral palsy. And him and his mother came in and they spoke to a class of 100 students, and we were set up into groups. And it was all to do with, what can we do in terms of engineering or problem solving to help improve his life and what he wants to do. And, he was very passionate about photography, and a lot of people did, and we, as part of my team, we did the projects to really look to help people. But one of the things that came through was that this is going back before iPads were invented. And he had this big touchscreen computer, but it cost £5,000. It came from America. It was very clunky, but it was also quite a long time ago. And I remember in one of the conversations that his mother had said that she couldn't teach him new things because they couldn't program the machine. So as well as the course out of hours, I learned how to program this machine and actually add new things to it. And I remember we wrote a program and it was to teach him how to count money and coins. And I think the other one was to tell the time. But actually, I love being able to use what I'm good at, which is like problem solving, and then but use it for real impact. And it was just as I kind of went through my career, and you could say it's maybe to do with the I'm very creative. I love that kind of thing, but also maybe the leadership side and really want to look after people. I went more into the business management angle of my career because I like building relationships. But actually then you could use the same skill sets to look at business and actually look at, okay, what is sales? Like from scratch, what is it? How does it work? Then do a lot of homework to look at, okay, who are the world experts in this, or marketing or strategy or management or whatever. And then actually bring it together to identify how to do it better. But also in my jobs, because I was doing this for real in real companies, I practice these things every day. But what's also quite interesting, is that when I worked at the local enterprise partnership in Tees Valley, so up here we have the Northeast LEP, and on Teesside it was called, well, it's now called the Tees Valley Combined Authority, but it was called something else 10 years ago. And part of my job there was to go out and listen to companies, identify what issues they had, and what could local government do to help solve them. And one of the issues that came up was that post-recession, people didn't have any cash to bid on big contracts. So on Teesside, you've got a lot of very big industry stuff, big, heavy fabricators and things. But often, I won't go into too much detail, but often when you want to bid to build an oil rig, you have to put something called a performance bond down to say, look, I can make this. I'm going to put £2 million cash down as like a deposit. And then when I make the thing and I get paid £40 million, I get my money back. But the idea was, or the problem was that after the 2008 recession, companies didn't have any cash to then put down these bonds to help them grow and create jobs. So one of the things I did, and it was just the way that I like to look at the world, was I spoke to a lot of companies, I spoke to banks, I spoke to accountancy firms, and basically I figured out a way to use government money, it was £10 million, to create jobs and allow companies to bid on big contracts. The fund has been running for almost 8-10 years now. It's unlocked about £250 million worth of work, created thousands of jobs in the Northeast, and it's allowed companies to bid on bigger contracts than they could have without the support. But what I loved was I invented that. It didn't exist in the world before, but it was the same thing of just speaking to people, identifying what the problem was, and then actually, fixing it and changing it. And I found it quite funny that after we'd launched it and it was live and it was working and it was generating jobs, we were invited down to the British Business Bank in London. So this is a huge bank near, Westminster. And it's got, 500 plus experts in finance and different things. And they were like, well, how does this work? We need more evidence to prove that it works. And what I found quite funny is that I solved it from scratch on Teesside on my own, and we'd proven it would work. And people always wanted more evidence, but it was just that idea of being able to solve problems and look at stuff is just what I happen to be quite good at. But because I've proven it over time in real different scenarios, I didn't just get lucky once. It's that I've applied now to business education. That part of me, when you asked me before the call about how can we make it better, there's actually lots of ways. But for me, I love the challenge of it because, you have a lot of business coaches that will talk and they say, this is how you scale your business, but they don't do it themselves, and they don't do it because it's very difficult to do. Is where you can see me 4 times a week evolving and growing my business and doing all the right things. That it's the proof in the pudding. It's almost, I'm putting my own neck on the line to prove that I know what I'm doing, and you can see me do it. And if I fail, you'll see me fail. But actually, I want to help more people. I want to get this out there. And yes, I want to do well from it. But actually, there is a genuine mission to help people like yourself. And especially, I think, because I was raised by my mum, to really help female entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs, but I have a special kind of passion there that actually I really want to do something there. And that's the mark that I want to make. And if I can give people confidence to help them make that next step, or, earn enough money to make a living and stuff, that's why I'm kind of doing this.
So you walk the talk.
I try to.
Yeah.
You tell me. It's the proof. The proof is on your desk, because that's the other thing as well, is that everyone in the world has haters. You have people that will put you down and criticize for different things. I do as well. Everyone else does. So what I want to do is create something to create the roadmap book that when I send out to people, the hope is when they flick through, it's good. It's good stuff. And actually, there's a lot of stuff in there that I've kind of invented about how things glue together that you can really make a real difference. But what I guess I was also wanting to do is just prove. I think I have this chip on my shoulder. It's like therapy. This from when I was younger, almost just to prove that I'm good enough, if that makes sense. And this is just one way for me to do that. That actually, it's very hard for someone to criticize or take away from me because the evidence is there. If that makes sense. As well, I hate bullies, especially kind of corporate bullies that hold people down. That actually now, because I go direct to consumer, I control my own broadcast kind of channels. There's nobody to hold me back, and I actually quite like that.
Yeah. So were you very competitive? Are you a competitive person, being a basketball player and then just?
I am, but I was worse than I am now. I think when I grew up, there was lots of things that I wanted to achieve, and actually by 32, I'd achieved most of them. That actually now, I'm still in a business context competitive, and so one of my competitors for the roadmap is a company called Power MBA. They were founded out of Spain. And they were founded 4 years ago, similar to what I do, but it's all based around 15-minute talks like TED Talks, where people give you inspiration. That's what it's built around. Mine, as you know, is a lot more hands-on practical stuff that people can actually use to learn and develop. But the Power MBA is valued at $100 million. It's been going for 4 years. That's where I'm aiming for. I am aiming that big. And the competitive nature in me, but likewise, because I don't have external funders or stakeholders to hold me back, I want to do it morally in the right way. So that's why you have the 50% buy one, gift one, that actually the idea of making this business work and grow. I have learners in India, all over the world, that actually it's only been going for 6 months. And there's a lot of time there that I want to keep going. So touch some wood, we can talk in a year's time or 5 years' time or 10 years' time. But the mission will still be the same. I want to create the world's biggest and best real world business course. But I want to do it in the right way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But then the people, we are not for everybody. And then the people, if they like you, they'll follow you. You tick their boxes. So.
But I think this. I think when you start anything, this is true with a lot of businesses, that you will have next to no growth or marginal growth, and then at some point it'll take off. And I think for me that will be in about a year and a half's time when it will really kind of take off. The challenge often is it's to have enough confidence that what you're doing is good and that people get value from it to keep doing it. Because actually, when you do know all of the theory and you know what to do and you know how to execute, and I teach other people to do it, people say, and I had a lady say it the other day, that I seem to have everything worked out. I seem to know what to do. And I do, because I've read all the books, I've done it, I've lived it, I kind of know what works. So it's just having confidence to just keep going. So when a friend asks, do you want to come on my podcast? I will say yes. Because that helps, access you to a new market. And if anyone watches this and you're interested in a free course, you can go to roadmapmba.com. And there's also the email, which is guestlist@roadmapmba.com. And I will happily send you a free course, and you can have access to all of the online materials and things. Because what I want to do is give people value that then when someone asks you, is it good? Would you recommend it? That they say yes. And that's the whole point of what my next journey, next 2 years will all be about. And then at some point, it will hopefully grow to the point where I have enough corporate customers paying me that anyone, anywhere in the world can say, they can apply on the guest list for a free course, and I'll just send one out. And that's the dream, that people won't abuse the system, but actually it would give access to the 18-year-old me that would never have had access to good quality business information. Or, there's a lot of people that are a lot worse off. I still grew up in the UK, so it wasn't that bad. But the point is, anyone in the world can have access to good quality stuff. that yes, if you want to go to a top university and do a proper MBA, go for it. If you can afford to do it in the time, absolutely do it. But the whole point is most people don't, and it's that niche for smaller businesses, smaller people. That's where I'm targeting. I'm not actually trying to compete with Harvard or Newcastle Business School or
Yeah.
whichever. It's the people that don't have access to that
Yeah.
is my niche.
What's the youngest student you have?
It's funny actually. So next door to me at home, I gave a pack to my neighbor, and he owns a window cleaning. No, they install domestic windows in houses and buildings. But he also gave a pack, and I gave another pack to his kids, who are 17. And one of the things that they liked is that the explanations and the approach is still, you can understand it if you're 17. Any younger than that, I think it might be a bit too, you don't have the reference to really understand what things mean. I have a few 18-year-olds, so I think that's the kind of level that I might one day do a 14 plus or 10-year plus version. But the truth is, if you're a kid, you should be a kid and enjoy it and build your confidence and go to Cubs and do all the nice things to build yourself. And I think this is almost that for people that have started their careers and want to progress, but they don't know how. This is a good way to learn to sell, learn how to manage people, learn what is marketing, how can it work, what is a personal brand, those kind of things. Is that I had to learn it all from scratch, from all of the different books and different places. So that the thought that it's all kind of just together for someone to pick up and use is hopefully a big kind of selling point as well.
Yeah. So what's confidence to you?
What is confidence to me, or where do I get my confidence?
What's confidence to you?
I think I guess the word says what it is. It's almost so. If people, it's funny because there's different types of confidence. So you have emotional confidence, you have technical confidence and competence about what you do. I think in some ways it's a very difficult question to answer because you either have it or you don't. I guess in many ways it would just be the belief that you are good enough and enough to kind of do what it is that you want to do. I think a lot of people do suffer sometimes with imposter syndrome, where they worry that they're not enough, so they've lost confidence. But it's that balance again of trying to give people confidence and belief that even in the company I mentioned right at the start, who I'm about to start working with, I could tell from the way that they scripted certain things that even after 10 years, a team of 15 people, probably £1 million plus business, that they still don't have confidence that in themselves and what they're doing. And they probably do. But I think that's also one of the things that I did a course by Google, and it was called I'mRemarkable. And it's all about how to empower and celebrate women and different communities and diversity within the workplace to give people confidence. And what was funny is that there was a lot of stats to do with how if there's a promotion opportunity in work, men will generally apply for it, even if they only meet 3 of the 10 criteria that they look for.
Yeah.
Women often want to hit every single one before they go for the same job. And there is a difference between the sexes, which artificially hurts women. But often that comes down to confidence and having self-belief in what they do. So being a white middle-aged man, in some ways, or people that are similar to me are a major part of the problem. So actually, if I can help and I'm the person to help champion this cause, my hope was that it would add more value than so it's, for instance, say if we were vegan and we were trying to get everyone in the world to turn vegan. It's great to have vegan spokespeople that they are, they can say how veganism is brilliant. You should all jump on this bandwagon. But actually, if you had a major meat producer, the person you're trying to change their mind, actually say, you're correct, vegan is better, and give them the confidence from that external source. It's that angle of, as the white middle-aged man, who now in some ways is privileged, if I can empower women and people from different backgrounds to say, you are enough, you know what you're doing, I have belief in you to go for that job or to start a business or whatever, my hope is that it means more than if someone at the same says it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And but that's one of the things that's just really important to me. And it's also true in sports. You have, when you coach people in sport, when you learn things from scratch, there's a long time where you're not very good. And what you don't want is that someone gets frustrated and gives up. And that's as true in business or anything else. So anything you can do to just give people that little bit of confidence, just to say, you know, I'm going to start a business. How can I do it? How does it work? I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Because I'm remarkable. That's the way Nina,
Yep.
she's yeah, I've heard from her.
So it was when Nina spoke on it, and I was probably in the room same time as you. It was on a
Yeah, I think
Founders
so.
Friday thing. So I signed up, and unlike Nina, I did buy the t-shirt. She joked in that same talk that it wasn't free. I actually bought two, and I had one on before I came here. And I did after, inspired by Nina, I wanted to help and do my own thing. So I signed up, I did the training courses. I quite literally bought the t-shirt, and I've even ran sessions on it before. But one of the things that I found is that, again, I like to learn and watch, was that in the sessions that I would run, and I genuinely obviously mean that why I do and I want to help, it became apparent, I believe, that actually the women and the people in the session actually want it to be run by women. They don't want it to be run by me. And I could just feel that. So actually, I haven't done one since. But it's not that I don't support the cause. I quite literally have the t-shirt. It's one of my favorite t-shirts. But sometimes you need to know where you can add most value, and that's probably not one for me.
All right, I see. So, do you push yourself out of your comfort zone? Because that's running that session for women, and that perhaps.
So it's not just for women; it's also for gay men, but almost anyone. The whole point is that it's inclusive, and it's funny that I think for me, it's if I feel I can make a difference or make a change, or I want to help, I'll get involved. And it's that balance of I do have comfort zones. I still remember the first time I live streamed, especially on LinkedIn Live, and it was scary because, you know, you're going to pop up and people are going to see you and hear you and what they're going to think about you and stuff. But actually, I've probably done 400 live streams now, because I do them multiple times a week in this room or wherever, that actually your comfort zone grows. So the more you push yourself, you can learn and develop. And actually, the thing that you were worried about isn't that bad anymore. And then you can just keep learning, keep pushing yourself. That, you know, for me, the business has probably been going for, say, 6 months, but I know where I'm looking to go will be uncomfortable. It will be a challenge, but actually, I really want to, you know, tackle it on. So.
And what other things do you do to get out of your comfort zone?
What other things do I do to get out of my comfort zone? It's funny because I don't know how much I don't skydive or bungee jump or anything like that. I know now, because I'm 38, I know what makes me happy. I know what I enjoy and what brings me contentment, which is the most important thing. I kind of play within that sphere. That, for instance, you know, I always work on personal development. I read a new book a week or every 2 weeks. I put a lot of time and effort into that. But part of that is because it actually helps me develop my skill set and helps me become better. That actually, you know, I think in some ways that, for instance, you know, when I choose to constantly reinvest back in the business, so I have a very successful consultancy business, but all the profit goes back into creating the roadmap and sending out free courses and the studio and that kind of thing. That in some ways that puts me out my comfort zone in terms of finance. But actually, it's still, I believe, the right thing to do, that I'm happy to keep pushing, if that makes sense. But in terms of holding snakes or spiders or sky jump, you know, I don't really do any of that.
Right, interesting. It's people see things different way, don't they? Because when I ask the comfort zone questions, there are so many different versions comes up. So what's the craziest thing you've done in your life?
That I will say on camera.
that you will say on camera, yeah.
There's lots of things I wouldn't say. Oh God, I've done lots of like stupid things. Craziest. It's funny, like with it's funny. I'm trying to think of the stories that I can tell. It's a very different. Can we go to the next question? I don't want to give you a bad answer, but I can't think of anything actually. Like I've never dyed my hair blonde or shaved my head, or I have no tattoos. I'm actually, people joke there's a phrase where people say that you're a Boy Scout where you've done nothing wrong. I quite literally, I mean, it's how we started the conversation. In many ways, I am a, there's a lot of things. I have no tattoos. I don't drink. I drink a tiny bit, but not much. I don't smoke. Never smoked. Never taken drugs. So actually, by comparison, for a lot of people, I probably am quite tame. So.
So then my next question would be, what's your most favorite failure?
Okay, most favorite failure. It's funny because I've had lots. I think in some ways, the biggest one would be that I spent a lot of my life and career being groomed and looking to go into overseas construction, to travel around the world, fly in nice planes and fly in helicopters and go to these big construction sites and do that. And that's what I was doing after I graduated, and I was again in Jamaica and etc. But actually, in some ways, when the 2008 credit crunch hit, I had options where I could have stayed in employment for the same company, but I was on a good salary, and I got a per diem, so I got a Jamaican salary to cover expenses and a UK salary as well. But I gave it all up to go back, do the PhD, and win a girl back who's now my wife, Lisa. But actually, I went from a really good salary to £13,000 a year. And most people thought I was crazy. They're like, "What are you doing? You've gone from here," how they saw it, to, a student again, on arguably below minimum wage. But what that did, I knew what was right for me, and it gave me the ability to learn. But actually, I also started my first business at the same time because, I needed to. I didn't need to earn extra money, but I kind of did because I didn't really earn anything. But what that did, it taught me to create a brand, sell, deal with customers, create something, go out there. And when I started the photography business, it was quite funny because I still use IMAX now, but I had some savings from working overseas, and I used to get paid my scholarship quarterly. So I get it in a big chunk. I get £4,200, 4 times. And then what I did was I decided to gamble all my savings and all my studentship scholarship money in one go to buy the camera equipment, the background, the lights, the computers, to then launch the business. And if I didn't make the money back in 3 months, I couldn't pay my bills. So actually, that was probably the craziest thing I've ever done. But the point is, it forced me to learn quick and learn how things work. And actually, I still remember the first event we did. So, at universities, at black tie balls, when you have the white background and you photograph people against the background and you see people do family portraits and things. It was, so my brother used to work for me. I used to pay him £10 an hour, but this was a while ago, so that was quite a lot of money. But I still remember we were setting up the first event, which was this University of Sheffield history ball. And I was still learning how to use the cameras and use the lights as we were setting up with people about to come in. That was how out my comfort zone I was pushing myself, but it paid off. It worked. And that's part of the reason. The same skills that I learned then, I use these same cameras and lights now, because actually it taught me a lot. But to literally gamble everything you have that you can't pay your rent or your mortgage or whatever in 3-4 months time, if it doesn't work, is a big gamble that you can kind of do at 24, 25, that you can't do at 38. So actually that probably answers your previous question about the craziest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, so you chose to do that. Yeah. So where do you think we'll see you in I don't know, 10 years' time.
I know where I want you to see me in 10 years' time.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked me before about what is my why.
Mm-hmm.
So the famous guy behind that is Simon Sinek.
Mm-hmm.
Also, incredibly good-looking American guy, wears glasses, tall brown hair, rolls his sleeves up. But I would love to, because this for me is a mission. I want to genuinely help people, but I also want the content to be good, which I believe it is. That actually, I think it's to keep going and keep talking to people, keep doing podcasts. I did a podcast in Canada last week, as well as my own. And the idea is just to raise profile, tell people what I'm doing, keep evolving the product, help more people, and build a brand. That in 10
Mm-hmm.
years' time, I would love to be as famous as Seth Godin or Simon Sinek or whoever. We're actually just to be known to share business education to help people, but in practical ways, not just theory, but also
Mm-hmm.
as someone that has done it and almost, done it from scratch. I've had to do this the hard way. In Simon Sinek's defense, as far as I know, he had the concept when he gave the TED talk for Find Your Why in the circles, and it was brilliant. And then he built the business from that. I'm trying to do it the other way, where I've created the business, created the content, and I'm doing it. And I hope over time that people
Mm-hmm.
find value, that I might get more speaking slots at things and just build a brand around that. But the mission would still stay the same, that it's trying to help people. And so by the time I'm 48, hopefully, I'll give myself till I'm 50. I'll be generous, but that is the level that I want to aim for. And as long as I keep executing and I don't do anything wrong, my hope is, as long as I'm happy, that's the main thing.
Yeah. So there are so many clever people we learn and follow and learn from them. Who's your most favorite?
So I like everyone. So one of the things that I found, and you'll see this, is that most business experts or people that you follow, famous people, have one particular niche.
Mm-hmm.
I like to learn from lots of different people and then apply it in my own life. So I actually
Mm-hmm.
don't have one person. So I used to like Simon Sinek more than I like him now. I think he's gone
Mm-hmm.
a bit left wing. He's almost too employee friendly, that it's not commercial. I'm a big fan of Seth Godin. I have a bookshelf behind me, and I just wanted to look to see which of the people are there. There's a lady called Sheryl Sandberg that was involved with Facebook that created the concept of lean in, which is all about
Mm-hmm.
confidence. I love Maya Angelou, if you know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
People from all different, Nelson Mandela, Barack
Mm-hmm.
Obama. I'd love just inspiration and from different areas. And actually, I only recently really discovered the "I Have a Dream" speech by Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when it was part of a different book that I read called Resonate. I won't bore you with the book, but the
Mm-hmm.
point is, I love people that have really put their neck on the line to really try and make a genuine global difference. That actually, I love to learn from that. But nowadays with YouTube, so I read a lot of books, but I do watch far
Mm-hmm.
too much YouTube. And I'm really into kind of physics as well. I almost did astrophysics as a degree. But there's a guy called Sir Roger Penrose who talks about, he's similar age and background to Stephen Hawkins. But it's when people talk about different types of how the universe works and how the brain works and why people do certain things, I love to just listen to this because it helps me think about things in a different way that actually gives perspective. And then likewise as well, is that even on my podcast on Monday this week, I spoke to a guy called Chris Johnson that I've known for probably 8 to 10 years. My age, great guy. He's got 3 kids, wife in the Northeast. And basically he now has terminal cancer. So he only has a set amount of time left to live. We all do, but his is 2 to 3 years. But actually, talking to him as we are now, to really listen and learn, and his, how his mindset has changed, in life with those kind of news. I learned from that, and that's as important to me as someone famous. So I learn from you. I learn from everyone. I love that you follow your passions and you do the I'mPossible conversation, and you don't have to, but you want to. And it's just, I like that. And I like people who try. I think that really resonates with me. And we both know Ashley King. And likewise with Ashley, it just, when it was at that same Founders Friday event, but you have the same network of people, but you do see the people that go above and beyond and they try. And I like that. And I want to help those people out because they're the ones who will make a difference. But it's you need to be brave to do that. There will always be people who criticize. So actually, I like people that aren't afraid to do something. The fact that you've created this and you don't have to, but you've chose to and do it, and you do it regularly, and you speak to your guests, and you create really good graphics and stuff. That's good and that's nice, and that should be like supported. But only 1% of people ever do that because it is difficult. There's always the worry of being criticized or having people say, why'd you do that? Why'd you waste your time on that? Who does she think she is, or whatever? And actually, I think it's brilliant that you do it, and as you should. And it's that you need to group together with the good people, because there will always be people who kind of criticize, or people criticize me for what I do, but I still know it's the right thing to do. So that's kind of my approach.
Yeah, as long as we know what we doing is good for us, it's fulfilling for us.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly. Steve, recently I've seen people putting on their LinkedIn like she, her, and he, and their pronouns. What do you think about it? Because if I put something like that, I would put we, us, together, that type of thing.
Oh, okay.
That's not option, but
No.
I can make it option, I'm sure. But yeah.
So the reason is that they don't want to be identified as a particular gender.
Yeah.
So I have two answers to this. The first is that people, should be able to do whatever they want as long as it doesn't offend. It can offend other people, but as long as it doesn't hurt other people. So if people want to live their life a certain way and express themselves in a certain way, that they might feel that they are gender binary or non-binary or whichever. So for me, I have absolutely no problem if they have they, them next to their name. Or you see it a lot with a lot of gay men or gay women that they might have he, him, she, her. That's cool. I'm fine with that. What I don't always like is that you have a lot of other people, generally straight people, who want to be woke. They want to be cool. So they have he, him, but they're doing it to be cool, not for any other reason. And that's something that, it's fine, they can do what they want. But I think there's always when people jump onto good causes, and the other side to it as well is that it's when people give to charity or they jump on a good cause because they want other people to see them doing it, not because they're actually supporting the cause. Does that make sense? And it's almost, I think sometimes people are too, there's a lot of virtue signaling going on where people want to they want the world to think that they are the most virtuous person in the world and their view is correct. But I also think that part of in society and on the internet, you have some people that are very divisive. So you have people from one side who think the other side is terrible and they hate each other. And I think part of that is because people don't listen anymore. As I think it's really important that, even if you disagree with someone, to still have a conversation and listen. That I think sometimes when people are too loud in their voice and their approach, where they want to project their opinions on others, but with no intent to really listen back, I think that is part of the reason why society at the moment is quite divisive. And it could be to do with politics, especially in America, but lots of different things that I think sometimes there's a balance to be had.
Yeah, it's so many things going on. Let me ask you my probably last couple of questions. What makes Steve happy?
So I like doing this. I like talking to people. I always have. It's one of my gifts in some ways, is just because I am quite technical, but I love the creative side to it. Some people might say left brain, right brain, but I love people. I love listening and learning about what people do and what makes them tick. I think I get the empathy from my mother, but that makes me happy. I love that. I love learning new things, and I don't just mean in like the nerdy way about reading new books. I mean, so I love music, and I have some very expensive headphones there, and I listen to Apple Music, but I love to put playlists on that's just stuff I've never heard before. And what I like about that is that it will be a new artist comes up, and you get to learn a little bit about them, but I have no idea what that song is going to do, where it's going to go, what it's going to sound like. And that actually, I really like that. And it's almost what that does. It inspires me in some ways. And then
Yeah.
one of the things that I also find as well is that over time, so I've still got a Rolex watch and I've got some nice things, but that doesn't make me happy it makes me happy, but what actually makes me happy is that, for instance, every Saturday, my wife and I, we wake up, we walk into Newcastle, it's 2 miles, we get a coffee, we get a pastry from Pink Lane Bakery, which costs £1. We sit, we eat, we talk, we walk around Newcastle, enjoy the sunshine, and we walk back. But the point is, a lot of the things that we genuinely enjoy and make me happy now cost nothing. I drive at the moment an 8-year-old's car with a dent in the door because I get my contentment and my happiness through creating and helping others. That in the past I've had some really quite nice cars. That at the time, for me, that was where I was at, and that brought me happiness. But after I'd achieved that, I've kind of moved past it, if that makes sense. And it's almost now, what makes me happy is helping other people. It goes back to the Cubs. Very well planned interview. It goes back to the Cub Scouts. But that is what makes me happy, and helping. So, for instance, even in this business center where I am now, the lady that works on reception, she's only 24. She's not quite sure what she wants to do with her life or career. So we just swapped some ideas and we were talking it through. And she's realized that she loves property and she loves interior design. So although just through a few conversations, her whole career now could move in a path that actually makes her happy and makes her excited. That it's just, I think as you become older, you have a mindset that kind of not changes, but you get more experience. That almost, I like to help people and work with people and use whatever experience and stuff I have. But I always do it in a way that I like to listen first, and then if appropriate, respond. And I think, again, one of the problems that you have a lot in society now is that people just want to shout all the time that their opinion is best. You must do what I say. And I don't like that. That's not me. But that's also part of the reason why, I hope that people might choose me as opposed to choose someone else.
Yeah, that's interesting. So would you describe yourself as a yes person or no person? But yes person is saying yes because there is so much opportunity because you don't want to miss it. But then no is trying to focus too much, not too much, but trying to focus. And then saying no because focus on that thing, we might be losing opportunity to gain something. Life is rich.
So I had a conversation with someone, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that I know would fall into your category of yes people, where in their words, they chase the shiny thing, they chase the new thing, and they can often do lots of things, but actually not really achieve anything. And that's in their words. I'm actually quite, I know my niche now, I know what I'm good at, and it's how I now know where to focus. That, for instance, I work with a lot of businesses, and I'm a director of a few of them, and they're really good, exciting businesses. But my core focus is the roadmap. That I could get distracted and do more of that, or do more consultancy, or try and launch an app, or try and do something else. But I know from all of the planning, the finances, everything, that I know what the right thing to do is for my next 10 years. Then now it's just having the discipline to execute against that. So in answer to your question, I would be a no person because I'm not afraid to say no to people. But actually, I'm still quite an optimistic. I do turn down opportunity, but I will always listen to it because it might be better.
Okay, so that's in a business wise, but in the life, are you yes or no person? Because it's a new experiences.
So I like new experiences. But it's funny that when we spoke the other day, a lot of my hobby actually is business stuff. I like learning. That's what gives me joy.
Yeah.
But actually, I then just apply that back. But you know, ironically, so I put my heart and soul into the business and doing this, and you know, but actually on weekends I like to like decompress and just relax and just get back to normal. That I'm probably not a particularly social person. You know, some people spend all their time with other people and other friends, and it's always out and about. I'm quite comfortable in my own, you know, space. That actually, in that case, I would probably be a no person.
Right, I see. What's the new book you're reading now?
Latest book I'm reading is actually, it's called Winning. It's all about a mindset to do with a famous basketball coach that worked with Michael Jordan and quite a few famous basketball players. And it's all about mindset to really kind of how to focus on what you want to achieve and almost go at it without worrying about what other people think. Because, for instance, if you're Michael Jordan and you want to be the very best basketball player of all time, there will be millions of other people that will criticize and try and drag you down, etc. But they don't know what it's like to be you. So therefore, they can't tell you what to do. You have to forge that for yourself. And it's quite an interesting book. It's by a guy called Tim Grozier, and I've just finished another one called Relentless by him. I think that was better, but this again is the mindset just to have your goal and just focus.
All these books about mindset, don't they all say same thing? Just different way.
No, there's lots of different books. So
The root is always same in how I read it.
well, we need to open your mindset to some new books then. But so some are there's a famous book called The Chimp Paradox, which is about how you understand different parts of your brain and almost your subconscious for when something change you up inside and you're not happy. And that interview was terrible with Suki. She hates me. And but that is a mindset to deal with emotional problems and anxiety and things, which for me is completely different to some of the business related strategy mindset to do with winning and growth. And I think that they're all different jigsaw puzzles that you can piece together and create a really nice environment.
Yeah.
But that's what I also love is to read stuff which is completely different, but it also it helps you build a bigger picture. But then you also read some books which are just terrible, and it's just they're a waste of time. But you need to almost have kiss the bad frogs as well as the good ones.
Yeah. What do you think about the Napoleon Hill's the thought become the what's the book name?
I don't know which book.
Oh no. The very famous one. Think and Grow Rich. I had to look at the
Okay.
Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, because it's like kind of everyone saying it. It's a Bible.
So there's a few books like that. You have Rich Dad Poor Dad. You have lots of different things.
Yeah.
What I find quite funny is that over time you have people buy into different concepts. I think a lot of people want almost like a get rich quick type scheme, and they buy into the idea. And there are a lot of people like Bob Kiyosaki that wrote a lot of those kind of books.
Yeah.
That actually almost is targeted to maybe a younger audience or people that want to live the dream about being a millionaire, etc. But the practice of actually knowing what to do, how to execute it to get to that point is very difficult. And I think it's almost that when you read different books at different points in your age or career, they mean different things to you. So for instance, 10 years ago, I read them and I really enjoyed those books. Now I feel I've moved on. They're too, for me, artificial. They hype up without any real substance behind it. As well, I like, I've kind of moved past that. It's all about skills and things that I can apply. I hate people that make people think that it'll be easy, or and you have a lot of people who are motivational speakers or coaches, but I think you have to find the right balance, because what you can do is that you can take a very good entrepreneur that's just started out and they're keen and they've got a good product. But if they focus too much on Tim Ferriss's 4-day work week and mindset and visualization and stuff, but they don't work on business strategy, what is it we're actually trying to do? How do we market the product? How do we sell the product? And then actually hustling to put the work in every day. So I was in this office at 6:30 this morning. It's now 8 o'clock ish, but it's almost, I'm not normally in this much, but people don't teach the ugly bits because it's not cool. But actually it's having the skill set, but knowing how to do the ugly things is actually what will make the difference, in a way that I think often people will, if you just believe certain people, it'll be easy and you can work 4 hours a week or whichever. But actually for 99.9% of people, that will often end in like failure. So I think there's a fine balance there between what I class as people that do this to take people's money for a course, but actually there's not real substance behind it.
Yeah. My very last question, Steve. It's 8 o'clock. I could speak to you like all day. What's the reality to you?
What's the reality to me? In what context?
What, like people say, be real, like reality. And then how do you define being real and reality? Because the book even says real world business education.
Yep.
What's real? Reality and real.
So I didn't know if you were going the physics angle of does any of this actually exist and etc. Because anyway. So in terms of the book, the real world business education is based on skills and techniques and things that work in business, and I've practiced in business working with people over the past 10-15 years. And it's how, when you take a concept from a book, which is a theory, learn, actually apply it, and then when you know it works, then you can teach other people in a simplified form. That for me is a real world angle, because actually you've taken the concept and proven it. One of the big things that you see a lot is that you can read a really good business book and it teaches you a theory about a topic, but it doesn't teach the reader how to apply it. Does that make sense? So in terms of when we do the classroom sessions, I can teach you all about scarcity and the concept behind how that makes a difference for your business. But actually, for the instance on Tuesday in the classroom session, the lady that makes unique bespoke cots to help save children's lives, her name's Catherine Patterson.
I know her.
Yeah. So she was on the classroom session on Tuesday. But when we were talking through, say, scarcity in general, we were saying actually her plan is to distribute her product into different retail boutique stores around the UK, so people buy them. But the whole point is, if she only sends one to each store, when a couple comes in to buy the cot for their new baby that they're expecting, if the salesperson says, oh, this is fantastic, it'll come in, it will help, save your children's life, they'll be safer, but actually we've only got one in stock, so it might sell today, but if it doesn't, it might go, you might go and come back and it's gone, they're a lot more likely to buy it because it's scarce and it might disappear. So because of that, and because Catherine's product is a more premium product, that's a way, and what, we went into more detail, but actually we talked about the theory, but we actually made it real for Catherine's business, for how she can apply it. And we did this lots of times, lots of different things, that then her chance of success of the business and the amount of products that she will sell using the theory will massively increase. And it's that balance is for me what makes the real world business element real, because it's taking it and listening and learning and applying it back. And that is, it's not easy to do, but I'm quite good at it. And that's one of the things in your question, is that approach. But it's just stuff that is tried and tested and works, not just a concept.
Yeah. So it's real to you rather than
so
like
real,
generic stuff.
Yes, yeah. And that's also the point of where, so the course is aimed at SMEs and small businesses. So anyone that starts up on their own, or they work in a small business, any business of less than 250 people. And it's aimed at that level because actually, if you work in a smaller business, you're often asked to wear multiple hats. You're asked to do different things within that job because they need you to do some HR, see some customers, manage a team, and do your day job. In a bigger business, so if you went to Google that has 50,000 people, 100,000 people, that doesn't happen. You have just specialists that just do one thing. So the reason why with the Roadmap MBA we've really focused on smaller businesses is that within the book, and obviously you have a copy, you can teach people a broad range of skills so they can get better across a range of areas, because that's actually what smaller businesses need and what people at work in smaller businesses need. If you do a proper MBA or other business courses, they're actually aimed at much bigger businesses, and they talk about mergers and acquisitions and some really kind of high level stuff that isn't applicable to most people. So what I've again tried to do is remove all the stuff that people don't need to know in a small business and just give them the stuff they do. So it makes the content real to them. Not, you could spend 40, 50,000 pounds to do a course which has nothing to do with your business of 5 people that you operate out of Gateshead. And that's the difference, is that because I've done this, I've worked at PLC firms, I've worked at all different sizes, and I in many ways am still a startup solo entrepreneur. I understand it, and it's that I hope to bring to people. And when I do my classroom sessions every Friday morning live 9 o'clock, people could ask me anything, and I'm on the spot, I'm on the stage, that I have to be good at what I do, because otherwise I would be found out. So not many people would have the confidence to do that. So that gives me an advantage, but it's because I know this stuff inside out, that actually that's the whole premise of the business.
Fantastic. So where can people find you and then attend your sessions, and how they can follow you? Yeah.
So my main channel is LinkedIn. So if you search for Steve Pugh, I should hopefully kind of come up. You have roadmapmba.com, which is the main website. On that, you have all the information you could ever kind of want. All of the classroom sessions, all the links are there, both to join the session and actually to find out when they are. So we have in the UK Tuesday 3 p.m, Tuesday 8 p.m, Thursday 7 a.m, and Friday 12 p.m. And basically what that does, it gives access to business education classes if you're in Australia all the way through to Los Angeles. We've covered every single time zone. And basically all of the socials is Roadmap MBA. Steve Pugh, you can find me on YouTube and stuff. And, I'd love to connect. If anyone wants a free course, just send me a message. And then touch some wood. We can kind of learn together, grow together. And then in 10 years' time, you can get me back on, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Steve.
No problem.
It's been such a pleasure to have you on I'mPossible conversation. And I hope that people would join your classroom sessions, and
you should join some of the sessions too.
I know, I do. Yeah, they definitely will be. Right.
But people seem to enjoy it. That's the main thing. And they find genuine value, which is the most important thing. So cool. But I know you're about to wrap up, so I'll do the wave. But no, it's been wonderful to speak to you, and I'm sure I'll speak to you soon.
Right. Thanks very much. And we'll speak to you later. Bye.